Hi everybody, TJ Mack of Vintage Cards and Nostalgia here. And today I want to go through my 1962 Topps football card collection. These were the first black bordered cards released by Topps. It's a 176 card set and has a horizontal design, which was the first football set since 1957 to do so. Now, like the 57 set, these have a split picture, but in 62 you get a large size colorized portrait shot and then a smaller black and white photo depicting game action. In the 57 Topps set, there were two colorized photos, both pose shots. Now here below the black and white photo, you have a large colored block with the name, team, and position enclosed within. I have 22 of the cards in this set. They're all graded by PSA except for the Fran Tarkenton rookie, which is a BBG graded card. Now the 22 cards I have are mostly an assortment of Hall of Famers, some of the key rookies, as well as players that I just happen to like or who were important to the period. And I do plan on adding some more over time. Here are probably the two biggest rookies in this set, along with the Ernie Davis, which I don't have. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it, but I do like having these two cards in my collection. The Mike Ditka, of course, and Fran Tarkenton, two of the great players of the 1960s. And Tarkenton, of course, lasted well into the 70s, going to 3 Super Bowls with the Minnesota Vikings. The back of the cards are vertical design and include the card number, name, team, and position. Now, some cards have biographical write-ups, and it may include lifetime statistics as well. And you can see around the number are the words Topps and National Pro. Now, unlike 1961 Fleer and Topps, the 62 Topps set only features the 14 NFL teams, and the Fleer set from 1962 had the rights to the AFL teams. Now, the bottom portion of the card features a cartoon trivia question. Now I want to show some of the cards and talk a little bit about the season. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I also collect magazines. Not only do they make attractive display pieces, they are also full of information that gives you contemporary insight into what was happening in sports during that time. Now, this is an issue of Sport Magazine from December 1962, which would have been out during the time that packs of 62 Topps would have been available at your local store. Now, just imagine being a kid and opening the door of your local convenience store. You hear the bells clang to signify your entrance, and there you pick up this magazine, a couple packs of cards, and an ice-cold Yoo-hoo. And on the cover are two of the greatest players of the day who signified the debate that was raging around the league during that time. Who is more important, the passer or the runner? Of course, there was no greater passer at that time than Johnny Unitas, shown here on his 62 Topps card number 1 of the set. And I just love the black and white photo that was used here with that distinctive arm movement that Unitas had. It just really captures him perfectly on this card. And then on the other side, you have the Colossus of the backfield, the great Jim Brown, who won, believe it or not, a rushing title every year he played from 1957 until 1965, except for 1962. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Just check out these beautiful colored pictures on the opening pages for this article. Here are two guys I'm fond of who were very popular in their day. In the center, you have 49ers quarterback John Brodie, and on the right, Cardinals running back John David Crow, who I had mentioned that Coach Paul Brown of the Cleveland Browns had offered Jim Brown supposedly straight up for Crow, but the Cardinals refused. Now, we know Crow was no Jim Brown, but he was a really good player of his era and was probably a better all-around back than Jim Brown, but Jim Brown was a much better overall player. Now, in this article, they polled the 14 NFL coaches on who is more important, the passer or the runner. Now, 5 of the coaches went with the passer, and 2 picked the runner, and the other 7 said they're equally important. Now, I've read other magazines in this era about how the NFL has become a passing game, and there were some who were very critical of it at the time. And we can see how much the passing game dominates today due to the rule changes favoring the offense and just the overall continued evolution of the passing game and using the whole field. However, in 1961, the league still ran more than it passed, as there were 814 more running plays for a breakout of 6,106 runs versus 5,292 pass plays. Now, the 2 coaches that said running was more important was, of course, none other than Vince Lombardi, who made his living with guys like Paul Hornung and Jim Taylor running the ball behind what was the best line in football at that time. And then the other coach who sided with him was a little surprising to me. It was Cowboys coach Tom Landry. Landry believed that the running game is critical in establishing the tone for the offense. Now, Paul Brown, who was known for running more than passing in his coaching career, believed that a great passer has a better chance of leading you to a championship, which was shown by his success when he had Hall of Fame quarterback Otto Graham. And 49ers coach George Wilson said he would take Unitas over Jim Taylor and Paul Hornung, but when you throw in Bart Starr on top of that, the Packers have a pretty balanced offense. I love reading these articles and gaining insights from the era. Now, there are several other interesting articles in this magazine, including this one on baseball's raging war with the fans and the players. In this article, it talks about how Jimmy Pearsall was attacked by a couple of teenagers while in the outfield. He fought them off with the help of his teammates and Mickey Mantle. It also mentioned how Roger Maris had garbage thrown at him in Yankee Stadium while in right field. And Mantle talked about how he would sometimes panic while leaving Yankee Stadium as the fans would exit through the field where the players were, and he would get touched by his fans looking to get close to him, and it just made him very nervous. And one time he was accidentally elbowed in the jaw and nearly missed some time over that. Fortunately, the x-rays turned out okay. But it was just a very interesting article about how so many things were thrown on the field back then that I just thought that was more something in the modern era. But there were some pretty unruly fans even around back in those days. Here's the passing leader for 1962, Sonny Jurgensen, who led the NFL with 3,261 yards and was third in touchdowns with 22. But he also led the league with 26 interceptions. The rushing leader in 1962 was Jim Taylor of the NFL champion Green Bay Packers. He finished with 1,474 rushing yards and won the league MVP. It was the only time in his career that Jim Brown did not win the rushing title between 1957 and 1965. Taylor also led the league in TDs with 19. When he retired in 1967, he was third all-time in rushing yards with 8,597, trailing only Jim Brown and Joe the Jet Perry. The receiving leader in 1962 was Bobby Mitchell, who was traded from the Browns to the Redskins, becoming the first black player in Redskins history. The team moved him from running back to wide receiver, where he finished with a league-high 72 receptions and also a league-leading 1,384 yards. Mitchell was third in touchdowns that year as a receiver with 11. The championship game that year was a rematch between the Packers and the Giants. The Packers in 1961 had shut out the Giants in the championship game 37-0. The Giants had vengeance on their mind as they were led by Y.A. Tittle, who led the NFL with 33 touchdown passes, which was 10 more than second place Johnny Unitas. Tittle was having a career resurgence with the Giants after being replaced by John Brodie, who played his whole career with the 49ers and served as the regular starter until 1971, before retiring in 1973. Of course, the Packers had Bart Starr, but it wasn't his best day as he was only 9 of 21 for 85 yards. However, the Packers managed to win back-to-back championships, beating the Giants 16-7. Starr in the 62 season was second in the NFL in passer rating with a 90.7. Now I'm going to show you the remaining cards that I have in my 1962 Topps football card collection. I hope you enjoy them as much as I have collecting and displaying them. I'm just fascinated with this era of football. I love reading the magazines and learning about the players and then adding the cards to my collection. They just make great display pieces and just remembrances of a time that's no longer around, an era before the Super Bowl became such a big deal and NFL championship was the big game of the year. And then you also had the rival AFL at that time. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and until we talk again, I hope everybody's safe and stays well.